I had the pleasure of meeting Lynn Lavoy, a.k.a. the Accidental Mystic, a few weeks ago in the comments section of the first episode we did of On-Ramp Radio. The interview I had with Chad. She had a different take, and she had some thoughts on how I could do better. Rather than go into a great deal of prefatory work here, let's just jump into the interview and see where it goes. It does raise some sensitive issues, some hurt feelings. I don't wish to reopen healing wounds or hopefully healing wounds that were a byproduct of things I had said in that discussion. But we have things to work through. I have certainly work to do myself to improve and function more wisely and skillfully in this space. And let's hear what Lynn has to tell me. So, this is On-Ramp Radio. My name is Mark Parker. Please welcome Lynn Lavoy.
The conversation with Chad, I made a comment, and I thought, I don't know that you understood what I meant. So I wanted to give clarity to the comment so that you would perhaps understand a little bit of history, or perhaps you understand why the comment was made, how it was made. And so anyway, the first thing I just want to say is I think that Jacob has known Nechama for probably many, many years, like probably 5, because I know that I've followed Jordan Hall and Verveke for over 5 years. And so when somebody has this history of recognizing pattern recognition, so Jacob has recognized her patterns for many, many years, it seems a little hubris to think that we who might be new or don't understand the interactions or whatever, or make assumptions, would understand all the dynamics or see the pattern recognition and pick up the nuances in which he had. So that's the comment when I said, commented about John Verveke's serious play. It was an antidote, a way of engaging with people like Jacob or Manuel or even Mark Lefevre. They're all disagreeable folks. And if you have been hanging around long enough, you know that Jordan Peterson has a personality profile. He talks about, he's put a lot of effort and a lot of his time into this personality profile, and it's pretty cheap. It was only like $10 or $15 to do this personality profile, and you fill out this personality profile through Jordan Peterson, and you get 5 categories. And one of those categories is agreeableness and disagreeableness. So when agreeable people with my personality type, like I'm an agreeable person, it is very challenging to interact with people who are disagreeable. And it just happens to be a personality difference. And so when I say, well, an antidote is John Verveke's serious play, it's like he explains in a clip, we have patterns and we do these patterns and we engage in people in a certain way all of our lives. And you have to engage in this type of serious play in order to recognize that there is a different way to engage. And this helps the pluralism in our society, or I don't know how much to unpack. But anyway, so that is what I wanted to communicate or tried to communicate in my message. But I don't know that if I was clear enough, because sometimes because I don't write things, things are misunderstood.
No, that's fine. I didn't quite realize that you had strong feelings about the kerfuffle. It was, I think, as I recall, the comment said that you agreed with Chad. Chad was critical.
Yes,
the male reaction to
Chad was critical, but the thing about that I agree is that having rules and having a procedure to do X, Y, and Z, that's what I agree with him about. So not necessarily the subject matter of who was right or who was wrong or who was whatever, because I know Jacob and Nahama has had a long, long history, and he has a capacity to see patterns, amazing patterns that many of us don't see. And Manuel has a way of seeing those patterns, as well does Mark Lefebvre. So, and to say that I have strong feelings, no, I love Jacob. They're disagreeable and they're jerks, and I love them very, very much. So no, this isn't about a tribe or having feelings X, Y, and Z. It's about explaining that there are personality types, and sometimes it's important for us to understand our own personality and to recognize other people's personality and use serious play or techniques to try and facilitate a reciprocal opening that Verveke talks about versus a reciprocal narrowing when engaging.
Did you by chance get to see any of the live stream I did yesterday?
Yes, I did.
Okay, so you have a little bit of an idea of where I'm coming from, maybe.
Yes, your father, I can... Yeah.
I think a big part of it it could be a cultural thing as well as generational, and that's where I was trying to get to with all that. And of course, it was challenging for me because I did not expect to. Cause I haven't talked about my dad that much since periodically we would talk between family members, but not publicly. And so it was a little bit like, oh my gosh, a little overwhelming, a bit of a show. I apologize for people who dislike a public displays of emotion.
I thought it was beautiful. It was absolutely beautiful when you talked about your dad, and I totally agree with PVK. I'm sure PVK thought it was just as beautiful. I didn't see the whole stream when PVK was on. I just jumped in and out and seen that you had talked to PVK. But
okay, so
when you were talking about your dad,
okay, we're not completely. So you have some awareness of where I'm coming from. I'm suffering from a bit of a disadvantage with regard to you. I don't know that much about you. So can we back up a little bit and maybe just start with your online handle, Accidental Mystic?
Well, I've been using my name. So my name is Lynn, and Lynn Lavoy. I always use my name.
Okay.
So I've followed Jordan Hall for over 5 years, and Verveke for probably over 5 years as well. Before the pandemic, I watched the entire Awakening from the Meaning Crisis. Now, I had a mystical experience, and it's been a long road trying to understand or unpack that mystical experience. And so that's what has led me. Now, I don't particularly enjoy watching PVK that much because he preaches, and I just can't handle the preaching. So I'm not a huge PVK person. He's a wonderful man, I'm sure, but I'm more of a Verveke, Jordan Hall, Jordan Peterson, Mark, Manuel, and I, and Mikhail, and Sally, Joe, all participated in watching Jordan Peterson's Maps of Meaning series. And we participated for hours and hours and hours together watching these things and interacting with Peterson's Maps of Meaning. And it was very grounding, and I learned a lot about myself, and that's why I learned the personality profile as well. So basically, it's just been a journey to unpack why I was given this mystical experience and what is my relationship to God and my responsibility to that.
A couple of questions are going through my mind. One would be, we could go down, I'm curious about the nature of the mystical experience. The other would be, PVK is a very winsome sort of preacher. So as far as Christian preachers go, he's pretty mild-mannered. But I'm curious, setting that aside, I'm curious, what did Jordan Hall's fairly recent conversion do for you, or for your how did that affect your opinion of him? You can pick either one or both. Door A or door B.
So, I would rather meditate than be preached at, and perhaps I'm like Verveke in that way. But regarding Jordan Hall, he deconstructed QAnon. So his videos, way back years, is he's autistic and in the autistic spectrum, but there's just following his journey. It's the autistic spectrum, and I think it's pretty amazing, but it's just God's grace. So there was times in his earlier videos, he would be talking to someone and he said, okay, wait, there's a China man in China in the military, and he would do this QAnon thing. So it's just incredible to me that the 2016 phenomenon has created these waves of Holy Spirit, I guess.
What do you mean by 2016 phenomenon? Are you talking about the election or the political moment?
All of it. It's started in 2012. I mean, where did it start for you?
I'm not sure what it is. What you mean by it? So maybe help me there, and I could because I don't know. I'm not part of. I came to the corner, not the Jordan Peterson sphere. I'm definitely a corner person. I'm definitely a PVK person. I need. I found Jordan Peterson off-putting. And I still do to some degree, require Vanderklay's help appreciating him.
I didn't like him either at all.
Okay.
Because I thought he was a transphobic in the closet person, and it's taken me.
Well, that among other things, yeah. His there's a lot of stuff about Peterson but I think Paul has helped me develop some appreciation for what's probably a great deal of sincerity and heart and intelligence behind it. Verveke, certainly intelligent, certainly sensitive. Not again. I did the whole his initial series. I went through it. Found probably it. I found it could have been condensed into 5 hours from 50. Was because I'd been through all the material, a great deal of it. So I mean, it's a great refresher course, on the history of philosophy and thought. But it didn't answer the question, in my opinion, that he set forth to answer, which was addressing the meaning crisis.
So you didn't catch the will to power in episode 25. You didn't catch serious play.
I watched. Oh yeah. I'm well aware of it. I went through it. I didn't study it. I didn't go through the lecture series again and again. It's been now, how long ago did he put that out? It's been goodness. We're into years now, aren't we?
Yeah, that's what I began. It's been 5 years.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. It's been about 5 years since that came out, and I probably did come across it. It's hard to believe it's been that long, but I'm guessing it was already done when I saw it. So it was, as I say, I'm in the 3 or 4 year range. So my memories. Why don't you look? Okay, so this subject of serious play. Why don't you, because that was something that you've brought up a couple times with me and in the comment. Why don't you explore that then? Tell me a little bit. I got a little bit of a grasp of where you're coming from and how you entered it, kind of your position in this dynamic of relationships we have here. Whether whether we're talking about a single collective or adjacent groups of people that are Peterson sphere oriented or corner oriented, whatever. Let's start there. Go with the serious play. Why don't you explain that to me and how I'm possibly missing the point on that?
Okay. It seems like you have a very comfortable wheelhouse. So there's the 9-dot problem, or Peterson talks about the basketball player and the monkey coming into the scene. Verveke talks about the 9-dot problem.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Have you engaged at all with that stuff? I mean, if you listen to Awakening from the Meaning Crisis, that's a significant participatory part of being able to.
Let's just assume I don't know anything about it, and just why don't you tell me what I should know, what I should have taken from it. I did go through it. I didn't do any exercises or participation sorts of things. I didn't take it. I found it half the time. I found it a bit tiresome. So perhaps I was judging. As far as being comfortable in my wheelhouse, I'm not sure what you mean by that. In the sense that, yes, I have certain ethical standards that have been with me for quite a while, but I am a person who's my history is I was both Christian and then I don't know, properly deconstructed, but let's say, fell away from the active faith it's a long sort of story. It's on my channel. I've struggled with bipolar disorder type 2. That was a big part of my faith struggle, was trying to sort that out. And I went to India, basically, or Indian philosophy, which was yoga and Buddhism, to help sort myself out and learn how to live with what was treatment-resistant bipolar disorder. I'm a person who has visions and dreams. I cannot stop it. It used to disturb me, and this process of integrating Buddhist practices with Christian mystical experiences, if you want to call it that, which may just be the result of my slightly abnormal brain architecture, or it could be God. You can call it whatever you want. All of this has resulted in me coming back to the church and trying to be a Christian Buddhist in the corner. So I've got a weird, long story. I've got a very weird and a very long story.
Goodness. Okay. So in Untying the World Knot, John Verveke and that other dude, I can't remember his name. No.
Oh, his sidekick.
The Latino. I think he's Latino. Is he Latino? I don't know. Anyway, it's Untying the World's Knot. They talk about, he's the psychologist, psychiatrist that, I can't think of his name offhand, but they talked about, in their series, talked about qualia. So there's a way of engaging with this qualia. And so in order to get somewhere in a conversation or to engage in the right manner, they talk about qualia. Now, I think a Christian might use the word Holy Spirit. I don't know, but that's kind of what I was thinking about. So, but it's really, really hard to sit there in our Western society and say that we're doing Buddhism right in the West. That's kind of where I'm coming. I've come to the conclusion of it's probably more wise to participate in Christianity than to participate in the Buddhism, unless you're going to go to their culture, to India, and participate wholeheartedly with your entire body and your soul.
Mm-hmm. Well, in my case, I went to Garchen Rinpoche. He's a Tibetan Lama, a Tulku, he's now based in. He has.
Is he the one? Is he the one who told you to go home and become a Christian?
Yep.
Oh, okay.
So you know something about the story then? Okay.
Yes. Oh, yeah, I listened to it. I just.
Okay. Yeah. No, he's the real deal. Chinese prison camp was where he finished his training. And 20 years in a Chinese prison camp. He's unique amongst the Tibetans, and the Tibetans are unique amongst the Buddhists, in my opinion, in many ways. I'm a big fan of them, of the culture. They're not perfect. There's lots of little problems. But it's well, I'm a happy, clappy Christian, and Tibetan Buddhism is a kind of happy, clappy Buddhism. That is to say, it's loud and colorful and complicated and full of joy. if you catch the right ones. Other forms of Buddhism, like other forms of Christianity, can feel like watching paint dry. I never got that from Garchen Rinpoche or from the Dalai Lama, although I've never met the Dalai Lama.
Did you see the Jonathan Pageau conversation about the he talks about the difference between Orthodox Christianity and with Verveke? That was in their last conversation about that, and the not the Willem Samsara, but the you're not going to Avalokite Shavira. And I thought that was an interesting point that Pageau had about Avalokite Shavira, that in contrast to Jesus dying on the cross, and that, being embodied that way.
Well, there's a lot of, I think, in Mahayana and then taking it one step further with Vajrayana. In Mahayana, you get the Bodhisattva concept enters. Whether it was I just assume, I take the Western historical approach and say it was an innovation, it was an evolution of the practices and insights of earlier Buddhism. They tend to see it as it was a kind of discovery in time, and so that was made. The teachings of Mahayana date to the original historical Buddha, and just they were in a sense buried and kept back. This is all faiths participate in this sort of thing. They kind of develop stories for themselves that help them understand why they are not what they started out being. Okay, Christianity does it. I think Buddhism does it. Judaism certainly does it. And it's a way for us to, us human beings, that is, to adapt and process change for things that supposedly should be resistant to change. And then Vajrayana comes along and says, okay, you can if you practice with the right guru, you can reach enlightenment in this lifetime. Instead of it taking 1,000 incarnations, you can actually do it in the human incarnation in which you find yourself, with the right devotion, discipline, and merit, and with the right guru.
Well, my issue is that it's the karma thing. I just don't. Well, there's two things I should say. The first thing is, because I have an eye disease and I'm, have been visually impaired and, haven't struggled with this blindness my whole life. When you talk to a Buddhist, it's like, oh, it's karma. And it's like, I just can't I just don't get that. I just don't get that. Okay, that's the first thing. And the second thing,
Americans are very resistant to reincarnation and karma. And I get it.
Okay, so that's the first thing. The second thing is New Age. So it's so easy for the New Age thing to creep in to the Buddhism thing, and it becomes this ideology that is not embodied in ourselves. And so and so then the issue I have with Christianity is that Jesus made the blind man see. Well, there's not going to be no miracle on my eyeballs making me see. I mean, and so the fact that, so I only can see that through symbolic meaning. So I feel like I'm stuck between two worlds, and it sounds like you're stuck between two worlds as well. But with regard to Nashima and Jacob and that conversation, I just would say that they're disagreeable people, and I had to learn how to engage with disagreeable people in order to recognize that their pluralism and their the way they see the world is different than the way I see it, and sometimes they see shadows or see my shadow or my blind spot. They see my blind spot when I don't see it, and that's how we make sense of the world.
Well, before we I can't help, if you don't mind, just give me 2 minutes on karma and that sort of thing.
Okay.
I came to see karma as a form of grace in the way that the Apostle Paul speaks about the Torah in Romans. It's not the thing that saves us. Okay, just let me use the word, because it's not the thing. It's not the force that redeems humanity, but he says, is it? He asks, is it something? Is the law of value, even though it falls short of doing the job, so to speak? He says, it's very much worthwhile. I would not know not to lust if the law did not teach me first, thou shalt not covet. In other words, he talks about how the law is a tutor, and it helps. That was its purpose, and I think karma plays that role. In very simple, in terms of the most basic way to understand it, as came to understand it, was that it's simple cause and effect. There's no escaping it, except you find, of course, you say there's no escaping it for those who there's no escaping it until you do. Put it that way. But it's there. It's there for a reason to shape you. So in other words, in the book why you are not a Buddhist. Basically he's a cantankerous. This part is written by a rather cantankerous Lama, and he basically, it's a treatise on why Westerners can't be Buddhists. If you read it carefully enough, because it says you can't be a Buddhist if you don't believe in reincarnation, and of course reincarnation is all about karma, and the idea is all your future life, whether it's your future life in this world or the next, is shaped by a billion priors that brought you to this point. For me, of course, I looked at this and I said, at some point, I'm meditating, and I don't know, the Bardo struck me, and I went, one of the many things that happened is I just realized, oh, well, I'm not going to get through this. I'm not going to survive the bardo on my current practices, and I'm not going to leave my wife to get really good at them. I'm not going to do a 3-year retreat by myself. And so I said, okay, well, we got to start thinking about something, being open to other things. And for me, that brought me back to Jesus, right? So that was all part of my faith journey. Now that's just an aside. I think you can when I say, okay, karma can be a form of grace. Can you imagine you have an eye disease. You probably have other shortcomings, physical challenges. I have multiple challenges. Some people have some challenges that are so severe they're unimaginable. Yet, can we imagine being who we are without those challenges? I mean, can you imagine? You literally have to be in somebody else's body, right? If you're not in the body you have now, can you imagine being you?
You're speaking past me in the same way that I was speaking past you. When I said in 2016, something happened in the same way, using the imagination to pretend to be something I'm not. It's like, well, okay, but I don't want to do spiritual bypassing. I don't want to.
Okay, fair enough. What's the authentic, or what word do you prefer? What is the you've had a spiritual experience of some kind that you call mystical. Where is Lynn today? Maybe you just help me out. I mean, I'm trying to.
Well,
who's the person who wrote me?
Well, I wanted to communicate that what I already said earlier was that, there's people have been communicating and interacting with one another, and to put your own it's just hubris is what it's like.
Why specifically? I'm not angry, I'm just asking why is it hubris?
Because other people are seeing things that you're not seeing. And you have a blind spot, as I have a blind spot. As you are trying to point out my blind spot, literally, rhetorically, symbolically being blind or symbolically being not blind. In the same way, Manuel was pointing out a blind spot in PVK, and
Emmanuel? A lot of people didn't agree with. I mean, the people that you're saying were trying to expose PVK and Tayo's blind spot, allegedly, because they both seemed to be expressing had the same sort of reaction. And I had a similar reaction. Who's to say who is blind and who isn't. Except we as Jesus said, judge them by their fruit.
Yes.
So how do we get past this?
How do we get past this? Well, it's just important to understand that I think that John Verveke's serious play is one way in which we can go up against disagreeable people or people that we don't necessarily see eye to eye on and still engage with them. And saying that, oh, that was a bad faith conversation. Whose faith?
But no one who, let's just say, I didn't hear PVK say I'm done with you.
I didn't say that.
I'm just saying, though. I mean, it's that's been said. And in terms of who's not
well, not by
listening
me, not by me.
Right.
So
go back to the hubris. I'm just still trying to understand. Well, maybe we should look at the definition of hubris. I'm trying to grasp.
Jacob has been observing the Hamas patterns for many, many years now. They have a relationship, not a personal. I'm just saying a relationship as in they know each other. They've been engaged together. They've been interacting with each other for years, just as though I've been following Jordan Hall for years, following John Verveke for years, following Jordan Peterson for years. And so when you sit there and say, well, this person was not necessarily being passive aggressive, or this, or this person was, Jacob had no right to do X, Y, and Z. It's like, well, no, he's been following patterns for years here. He has blood in the game. He has flesh in the game. He's given up so much. He's the one who introduced StreamYard to people to use. He has been very assertive and has engaged with people in pointing out things that I wouldn't necessarily have seen if it wasn't for Jacob. So to engage with that and say it was bad faith or a certain way, it's like, no, maybe you need to figure out how to do some serious play and learn your personality and recognize he is a disagreeable person and learn how to engage with that rather than
we've been doing that for quite a while. I'm fairly new, but I've engaged with him seriously in person and online, there. I have engaged in serious play with Jacob. At this point, I'm not really thrilled about just even talking about him as a person, even though he may talk about me as a person. That's his privilege. I prefer not to do that at this point because it doesn't strike me as constructive. We can reference that video, I suppose. I don't find, part of the problem is as I said, my understanding of what a man is and how men should conduct themselves, regardless of patterns, regardless of alleged prior relationships we don't know what's transpired between anybody except those people tell us what has transpired. And even then we can only know in part. Nahama spoke vaguely and not directly about any one individual. And yet we all know, anybody who's online for a while knows how some men are towards women.
Okay, so perhaps I need to engage with more information about my story. I am bisexual. I have an ex-wife and an ex-husband. So I've been married to a woman for 12 years, and I can tell you there are evil women. And I'm not saying Nahama is one. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying that perhaps one of your blind spots, because you had such a wonderful father, I did not, but you had such a wonderful father, is this the fact that, yeah, there are some really narcissistic, evil women out there that are cruel, and
yeah, I can vouch for that.
And recognizing them is an important skill. Now, I'm not talking. I don't know Nahama very much at all. I'm not in that sphere. I do my own life as much as I can, and I love to watch videos and make clips and hang out. But so that would be one of your blind spots as an example.
Okay. I could concede and agree that that's a blind spot. I'm willing to, for the sake of play, concede it. But let me just say that I know that, well, I grew up with someone who was nearly murdered. Actually, two people, one a man and one a woman, would become one a man, one boy. One was a boy, one was a girl, that were both nearly murdered by their mothers. I mean, seriously, nearly murdered. One barely survived. So there are these there are female psychopaths just as there are male psychopaths. So, but I'll concede that I do. I'll play along. How does my blind spot, that my general outlook, this blind spot towards women, how does that change how I would respond to the scene we saw that is what, have been a week ago now? I don't know how long it's been. That was the reaction video, the reaction live stream to the conversation that Nahama and PVK had, and how would addressing my blind spot change my reaction? Is that a fair question?
Perhaps giving people who are disagreeable the benefit of the doubt.
What do they bring to the? Again, I'm toned. This is the problem without not seeing each other. We've got our cameras turned off, folks, so we're talking. This is like a phone call. So we're only going by voice. We're as blind to each other as you are to us. Okay. So when I come back at you like that, I don't want you to think I'm being. I want.
No. I'm happy to laugh. No, okay. It's all good. No.
Good.
No, I don't.
Okay.
I don't live in that space of taking it personally. I'm just.
Okay. Good.
I'm just saying I have learned so much from Jacob and Manuel and Mark, and I just want to make it very clear that they're disagreeable and they're jerks, and I love them very, very much, and they've taught me a lot. So I recognize that this is a hard thing to wrap your head around, but I've been engaged for years. Manuel.
Without getting personal to those guys, there are people who swear up and down that, back to Buddhism, there are people, hippies, they were hippies back in the day, but they became serious practitioners, and some of them are leaders in Western Buddhism to this day, who were followers of a guy named Trungpa Rinpoche. All right, have you ever heard of that guy?
Yeah, I used to be a Buddha at the gas pump person.
Okay, so you have. Oh, okay.
Yes, I've watched hundreds of hours of Buddha at the gas pump. This is when they started. Okay, that's what. Perhaps when I say it, that's what I meant in 2012.
We are fellow travelers, sister. We've been along the same road and didn't even know it. Okay.
Yeah.
So you know about Trungpa.
Yes.
Trungpa was an asshole. He was a full-on sexual predator who handed his organization over to an even worse sexual predator. Trungpa was an addict and called it enlightenment. He was brilliant because he came from a brilliant lineage that trained him well. But many from Tibetans never talk badly about each other, so you're never going to hear them. But none of them were happy with his life choices when he left Tibet. Got out of Tibet, ends up in the UK, and then he hits Western civilization running, and it's quite a story. But he ruined the organization. He wrecked it. They had to declare bankruptcy because of the lawsuits, reorganize. Anything you've heard about the Boston Archdiocese and the Catholic Church, his organization did as much evil or worse, and suffered the legal consequences. Disagreeable man. Yet there are people to this day swear up and down. I went to a retreat, sat next to a woman during lunch at one point, and we talked about Trungpa and his sexual escapades, and she said, "I'd fuck him." I'm like, okay, you do you. There are people who are fed by disagreeable people. Okay, but is it necessarily?
So
is the juice in the lemon worth the squeeze?
So that's Jordan Peterson, I believe, would say that disagreeable people have moral clarity just as you and I, and it just seems by your response that I would say that Jordan Peterson would say that it's a personality type, and it has nothing necessarily to do with the narcissism or the triad black traits, the disagreeableness. I don't know that I would make the correlation between the two.
See, I'm not fluent in a lot of the speak. So why don't you help me out? What's a triad black trait? What are the triad black traits? Is that a Petersonism?
It's a narcissism thing. That's it.
So you're deep in a lot of psychological stuff I'm just not into. So you're going to have to talk to me like I'm your dumb, uneducated great uncle. I'm out of sort and out of time. I'm not educated in a lot of the details of these systems.
Okay, well, the only way I can explain it is through Eckhart Tolle. That's the only way. I don't have any other way to explain it.
Okay, I've read Eckhart Tolle. Okay, but okay. I didn't. The verbiage, the jargon doesn't stick, I guess. So maybe it's a handicap I have.
No. I'll just use Eckhart Tolle's work if you're familiar with Eckhart Tolle.
I am.
He talks about the pain body. And so in his book, The New Earth, there's unresolved emotional trauma, let's just call it that, within us, and he calls it the pain body. And it's really important during awakening, or to recognize or to see the pain body, or that unresolved emotional pain. Thich Nhat Hanh calls it hungry ghosts. I guess a Christian might call it a demon. I don't know. But so Eckhart Tolle, he says, we all have this pain body inside of us, and it's like a little critter that wants to come out and eat pain and sorrow and suffering, or make and cause chaos. And so when there are people who have unresolved things, and they just want to create suffering for other people. And so that's what I mean about, perhaps just because you're disagreeable doesn't necessarily mean you want to cause suffering on other people. It's just how you go about being in the world. I don't know that it necessarily has to do with negative traits. I'm not ready to make that jump.
Okay.
But maybe we have to look at Jordan Peterson's work and Google it and do some research on it. I don't know that. In fact, I bet Peterson would say that being disagreeable is a different thing than that unresolved pain body, hungry ghost thing, like a Thich Nhat Hanh would say.
Well, hungry ghost is not certainly preceded the idea, as you know, it preceded Thich Nhat Hanh quite a bit. It's a image in Buddhism going way back. The idea, just so folks know, it's the idea of it's a being that's enormous belly, endless appetites, but a little tiny mouth and a little tiny like pin size thick esophagus through which food can only travel, and it's a person, basically it's a being with endless hunger and no capacity to satiate said hunger. And they wander the realm in which they are incarnated, perpetually trying to satisfy this hunger that can't be satisfied. It's a vivid image, and we certainly know people who certainly seem to be like that. I get, what we sometimes call them emotionally stunted, but they're in the real world, so to speak. They are probably, if they're not destructive to others, they're certainly self-destructive until they snap out of it and kind of can, through compassion, kind of start to work their way out. This is how all Buddhists, this is how all incarnations evolve in Buddhism. It's through expressions of compassion. This is how they rise slowly out of samsara, and they let go, and they learn to. And you see it in the Jataka tales or whatever. But anyways, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just saying that that for me, I was totally a person like that until 2011, 2012, and there was this dead end road, and all I could see was very unintelligent, stupid people around me who were all agreeable, but they did not have any cojones or any morality. And so, it's been a journey since then too. And so, so anyway, yeah. So that's where I've been. That's where I started 12. So when I say it at the beginning of the conversation, that's what I mean.
Very good. It only took us an hour to get there. Sorry, I'm not a very good interviewer. But I think you're doing.
Oh, that's very disingenuous and hubris of you.
That's it. That's it. I'm hubristic and just as disingenuous as Jacob would tell you.
Well,
I got the text.
okay.
I got the text to prove it.
Okay. Just for the record, I love Jacob, I love Manuel, and I love Mark. They're jerks, and I love them. And I guess I'll love you too, but I'm sure you're a jerk as well. All right, there we are.
I'm sure I am. I'm sure.
But you're very agreeable, which is very different than.
Agreeable. My teachers in high school would very much have disagreed with you.
But how about your wife? Maybe you should ask her. And I will be saying that I am wrong. If she says that you're disagreeable, I will.
She wouldn't say I'm agreeable. I don't know if she'd say I'm disagreeable. I don't know where she'd put me. I'd have to figure. She thinks I wasted a lot of. She looks at what I do. Well, that's kind of weird. Maybe she doesn't understand any of this on the one level, but on the other, she's like, "Oh, Paul Vanderklay's having another retreat. You should go." So I'm not sure if she's just trying to get me out of her hair or she actually thinks it's useful.
I would recommend you doing Jordan Peterson's personality trait. It's like
I'm going to do that. I've got to take the time. How long does it take? Like an hour or something?
No, 20 minutes maybe.
Oh, okay.
20 minutes.
I'll have to do
it's really, really quick. Zip, zap, zip, zap. But I learned I'm agreeable, and it's really hard for me to hang out with disagreeable people. That's what makes Jacob and certain people on the corner so hard to handle.
What do you think of Hezi?
I love him. But I love him. Of course, I studied his Noahide for probably a good 7-8 weeks. But the energy of the Israeli war just weighed me down. It weighed me down. But I seriously thought about becoming a Noahide. I mean, I could see myself being a Noahide. Although I'd have to give up buying lottery tickets, and I don't know that I'm willing to do that.
Well, you could be like Jacob and pick and choose which laws you're going to.
No, that again, you're being disingenuous, sir. I play with you.
He admits it. He'll tell you he doesn't keep kosher, but he's an Orthodox Jew. How can you be an Orthodox Jew and not keep kosher? I don't understand this.
I admire that. That makes me love Jacob even more. He's my man.
See, you're living vicariously through Jacob Federici. That's what you're doing.
No. I'm just Manuel and Mark Lefevre and Manuel Post. They're jerks and disagreeable, and they have helped me in my life so much. And they're disagreeable, and
help me out. This is great. We've been at this for an hour. How much time do you have? I got another 30 minutes.
Okay, I'll give you 15.
Fair enough. How has they helped you? Where were you at when you found them, and where are you now? And if you can kind of fill in the blanks somewhere to give me some idea within 15 minutes of how those guys have helped you.
Okay. Embodiment. So totally being out of my body in left field as far as the mystical experience. So not having the grounding. So recognizing negative flow experiences as reality when they were reciprocally narrowing, to use a Verveke term. So basically, there's a place after the mystical experience where I hit a nihilism pocket, a nihilism of I just don't want to be here on this planet anymore. And a lot of it has to do with my vision. I mean, I'm not going to sit there and pretend it isn't, but and being isolated because of my vision, I didn't have the privileges to do the things you did, going to India or meet spiritual teachers or do whatever. Just having the disability stunted that. But the mystical experience, there was a pocket of nihilism, and it still hits me to this day of, I just don't want to be here on this planet anymore. I really, really don't. And, but there's a reason why God has put me here, and I'm serving my boyfriend and I'm serving others, and I'm waiting for him to figure it out and let me know when. So anyway, but the nihilism, they helped me recognize that I was jumping into this negative flow experience and it was not reconciling with my life. And and they also helped me with the grounding of it. And, they can be very kind. They really can. And I know that
that I can testify to. I agree.
So yeah, that I would say that they really helped me. I meditated with them through the COVID. I mean, getting through COVID was hell. And so we did meditation. We did the Verveke thing together. We did maps of meaning together. Helped me recognize where Jordan Peterson was coming from. So I had just made the assumption that Jordan Peterson was this transgender hater person. I had no idea the levels of complexity that was going on with him. And PVK has helped me understand that as well. But so integration, a reality check. They see things that you and I probably, I'm going to speak for myself. They see things that I don't see. And sometimes when you communicate them, they'll tell you a totally different way of seeing the world. And that can really be helpful to somebody who's stuck in this reciprocally narrowing situation thing. And so when you're in this downward spiral and you think reality is one way and it really, really isn't, you need somebody with this wonderful discernment. They have great discernment skills. And so that's my answer.
Okay. You said COVID was really hard on you. Was it the social isolation? Or did you get sick?
No, it was just, well, I guess it would be a meta thing, the transfer of wealth from the lower income people to the high income people. It's changed our society. And, sometimes seeing how it actually changed our society, seeing how it hindered people they're still wearing masks to this day. I seen somebody today wearing a mask. Children, little baby children are wearing masks. Little baby children. So there's that, well, they call it wokeism. There's that, who in the hell thought this would be wise? And so our whole society and culture has gone off into this religion of politics versus finding out what is holy. And it's just sad. It made me very sad. It's just sad You didn't get sad during COVID?
Not particularly, no. I mean, there were other things that were, I suppose, at work, but that wasn't one of them. That was not. I was. Yeah, it wasn't the worst time for me. I've had much worse times. The worst I'd been through. With type 2 disorder, I'd been through many darker places, and I entered the pandemic fully equipped and with really well practiced at that point. So I got to kind of ride on my own coattails through that part, the worst part of that. That is to say, I'd had a lot of time practicing my mindfulness, etc. And so I got lazy during COVID. I gave up the vegetarianism, for example, just because I was cooking so many meals. I just kind of stopped being vegetarian because I was cooking so much for the family. I just decided, calories are calories, and we'll sort it out. Then so that was it loosened the grip of the kind of more strict Buddhism that I was following, and probably then what followed the crisis for me followed the pandemic, came afterwards, kind of after the peak of it, and I had a moment of just it was completely unrelated. My mom has dementia, and her situation just got worse and worse and worse. And in 2021, late 2021, I was kind of at my wit's end with everything just kind of going south with that and other things. I was watching around me with my other people, watching other people struggle. And I was kind of disgusted with my friends in politics, and had no place to go kind of feeling. It had nothing to do with the pandemic. It's just that I found the situation kind of hopeless, and in a moment I kind of had a vision, and the room kind of went black for me, and the cross appeared, and I looked at and I just kind of looked. I didn't even look at the cross, but the cross is in my field of vision to my left, and I just instinctively said to it, "You take it." And in the moment, I felt this kind of weird old brain, man, a mystical breeze like a wind, literally pass through my whole body. And I snapped out of the visionary state, and I said, well, that was interesting. And that set me on the road to where you see me now. I would not be here talking to you had I not had that experience, which took me back to the church. So now, did COVID have anything to do with that? I don't know. Maybe it was the whole environment, because I'm certainly the politics. I guess I'd watched my friends defend the riots in the summer, and I found that disgusting. And so I became slowly alienated from the people I had participated in politically. And of course, in 2021, there was January 6th. So I felt homeless for a while. I felt out of sorts with the times, and that's what brought on my crisis. That resulted in the vision. I don't know if any of that's communicating. I'm just kind of, and all I can say is it's probably the result of being bipolar, probably, But God, I believe in a God, and I'll say that God, I'm willing to trust that God uses even diseased brains for His purposes.
Well, that's being at my wit's end. As well. The other thing that they've helped me is the pattern recognition. And, Mark has a YouTube video, Navigating Patterns. Everyone should subscribe to it. And I love Father Eric's stuff as well. There are times when, I have had, it was like this negative energy coming into my house, or this weird thing happened. And it was like, but Father Eric, there's something about him that it's very helpful to, it's like a protection perhaps, I don't know, but he's been very helpful as well. I'm just watching his stuff, on YouTube. And I love praying the rosary as well. It's just something I've just enjoyed doing, is when there's really, really hard times, I just sitting down and praying the rosary is just incredible. So, and I can't say that the Buddhism track, like I said, it's so enmeshed in the New Age movement. So yeah, navigating patterns, pattern recognition, and then stepping outside yourself and being able to recognize a choice that it's being made is so you move from the no free will, non-dual stuff of Sam Harris to, oh, I see a pattern, I have a choice, I can make a different choice, I can do X, Y, and Z. That's another thing that they taught me.
Okay. Well, we're at 1 hour and 15 minutes and 48 seconds.
Okay.
Ready to call it?
I'm ready to call it.
I hope this wasn't too unsatisfying of an experience for you. I hope we made a little progress. Maybe I'm a thick-skulled person, so I probably need a lot of help. And so I don't understand everything perfectly, but I hope you found me at least be a reasonably gracious host.
Well, I was quite critical of you, and you took it very well.
Okay,
so,
thank you.
I hope you're not going to be you're not going to do no passive aggressive thing on me, are you now?
Well, there'll be the analysis. There'll be a video and analyzing the video. Then there'll be a video analyzing the video. I'm kidding. I'm joking. No, that
you just say, Lynn, you're an awesome human being, and I love you. Come on, let's say it. I want to hear it.
Lynn, you are an awesome human being, and I love you. I love getting to know you, and I appreciate it.
Well, no, I don't mean it like wife or nothing. I mean like, friends, like, sweet.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, like,
yes. No, I think it's
not romantic or not. No. I love my man. So
absolutely.
my boyfriend.
Good.
And you love your wife. So
absolutely.
I mean it in a kind, reciprocal friendship. Okay. All right.
Absolutely.
No passive aggressive is allowed here.
No. This will be it. If you wanna redo after listening to it.
No, I'm not going to listen to it. I'm not going to listen to it. Post it. I don't care. care. It's all good. All right.
We're going to post it. Thanks, Lynn. How's the milkweed harvest going?
Oh, wonderful. I think we got a good 10 pounds. So we're going to do some more tomorrow. They saving the monarch butterflies and making quilts with the silk from milkweed. So that's where the milkweed goes to. It goes to selling the seed for the saving the monarch butterflies and making quilts and pillows for people who want natural silk from cottonweed versus milkweed versus the synthetic plastics that are corrupting our whole earth, our planet Earth. So
interesting. Well, I don't want to reveal where you're from, but it's sounds like I'm sure it's a beautiful part of the country.
Everybody knows I'm from Washington. I'm living in Washington State. I'm an Idahoan.
Okay.
I'm a native Idahoan, but I
Okay.
moved here to Washington State because of my vision and being
Okay.
able to smoke cannabis. So
okay.
you could see that in the video. I think I told PBK that. So
Okay, good.
you all have a blessed day. I'm gonna go now, and we got some more harvest. I gotta go help with my man.
All right.
With our native seed company. All right. Bye now.
Bye-bye.